Hi, this is Majnu, and I want to show you a game now that is played with the Alekhine Defence. And the Alekhine Defence is one of the most interesting answers to e4. In this game, the player with the black pieces is a young grandmaster from Vietnam, a very strong player, rated over 2600, and his name is Nguyen. He's at the moment the best player in Vietnam, and he played this game during the Asian Championships this year, 2011, against a lower rated player, 2330. But anyway, it's not the ELO rating that we're interested in now, it's the game itself. So let's start. e4, knight to f6 is the Alekhine Defence, and white plays the chase variation, so chasing this knight, and it looks as if black is losing time moving this knight in the opening so several times, and that's one of the things that we learn when we start playing chess. They teach us don't move the same piece several times in the opening, but in the Alekhine Defence it has a purpose. The purpose is actually to invite white to advance his pawns, because the more they advance, the more weak squares they leave behind, and that's what we see in this game as well. Now d4 or c5 are the two most played moves in the game. c5 is played here. If white plays this d4, black continues with d6, attacking the e5 pawn, and after f4 the 4 pawns variation then is played. Now after take, now knight to c6 is a good answer. So here we see that black attacks this center of white and has 2 pieces developed, while white still has to start his developing. But let's go back to the game, because c5 was played here, and now the knight goes back to d5. Knight to c3, e6, attacking the c5 pawn, so d4 is played now, and after take, we see that the result of this pawn advances by white is that his light squares are becoming weak, and that's the idea of this. In this variation, black wants now to try to use these light squares to control the center. And how is he going to do that? Well, he starts right now by playing the move b6, wanting to place a bishop on b7 that controls these light squares here, and also tactically is attacking the pawn on c5, so threatening to win a pawn. White answers here with queen to f3, attacking the a8 rook, and black answers with knight to c6. Now again the threat of taking on c5 is there, so white takes on b6, and after a takes b6, it looks as if white is doing well since he has solved this double pawn, but we will see how weak these light squares are becoming. White continues with knight to h3. Now he doesn't want to move his knight to e2, develop it here, probably because it blocks the bishop on f1, so he prefers knight to h3. And actually, if you look at the position, white wants to play on the king side. That's where his pieces are, queen, knight, and also this bishop can go this way, and this can be a weak square, for a weak pawn for black. If the queen goes to the g file, it will target g7, so this bishop will not be able to brought into play, because then g7 will fall, and also the knight can be used to attack g7. This happened in the game, but at the same time black of course will continue his plan of controlling the center, the light squares in the center, and this knight can also be used like this after the light squared bishops are traded. You will see it in the game. Bishop to b7, queen to g3, Now a bit of a mysterious move, queen to c8. I can imagine that when you see this kind of moves you think, what is this? It's doing nothing. Bring the queen to c8, it cannot go anywhere from there. But the idea of this move is that black would like to trade the light square bishops. Bishop a6, trade it for the bishop on f1, and if white takes on a6, then black can take with queen, and then later go with the queen to c4. Those are reasons why queen to c8 is played here. Knight to f4, bishop a6, knight to h5, attacking g7 twice, and black now ignores this threat. He plays queen to b7. Now the queen on b7 is well placed because of the weakness of the light square e4. And I'm saying that because if the knight goes to a5, then queen e4 check is already a possible idea. Imagine this check after trading the light square bishops. It can become an entrance for black in white's position. Here white didn't take on g7. He took later on g7. He could have done it right now, but he played a4, and a4 probably with the idea of bringing the bishop to a3, trading the dark squared bishops, and so making g7 even weaker. That's the reason why a4 is played. But knight takes g7 was also possible. Now the thing is that we see here, if the king goes to d8, the g file is half open, so eventually a rook on g8 could be even a disadvantage for white. So this is actually a threat now, rook to g8, pinning this knight on g7, and the knight doesn't have any more attacking possibilities here, so it would actually have to go back to h5, and then black can continue with his own plan, taking on f1, rook takes f1, then knight to a5, ready to enter here and here. Now let's go back to the game. Here is where we left. So a4 is played. Now bishop to takes f1, rook takes f1, and knight to a5. So with the same idea, the knight can enter on b3, on c4, the queen can enter on e4. So these are these weakened light squares of white that are the result of the advance of these pawns in the opening, and of course the trading of the light square bishops. Now to prevent queen to e4 check, white played here f3. Now f3 has two consequences. One, of course, the positive one is that e4 is controlled now, but another one is that this pawn on c3 now is not longer defended by the queen. Black makes use of this by playing queen to c6, attacking the pawn on c3. The bishop goes to d2, and now knight to b3, attacking rook and bishop. Rook to b1, and now queen to c4. Knight takes g7, check now. So white decides to take the pawn on g7, the king goes to d8, and white continues attacking the king by queen to g5 check. But simply this bishop goes to e7, and the black king is safe. If we compare the position of both kings, they are both in the center, but because of these pawns here and the use of the dark square bishop, the black king is actually safe. There is no direct way to attack it. And if we look at the white king, because of the advance of these pawns so far, more space has been created around the white king, so the white king is in a more vulnerable position than the black one. The game continued here with queen to f4, and now rook to g8 is played. and we see the dangers. Well, actually we see how poisonous this g7 pawn was. White took it, but now the g file becomes important, not only attacking this knight on g7, but this pawn on g2 is also a possible target. Now queen to h6 is played, defending the knight on g7, and the knight took now on d2, king takes d2, so the white king is persuaded to come forward to more open space. Queen to a2 check, king d3, and here black didn't take on a4 nor on he didn't take on g2 with the queen. He took on a4, rook takes a4. After rook to a1, he gave a check on c4 against these light squares that are weak. King goes to c2, rook a2 check, rook takes a2, queen takes a2, king to d3. Now queen to a6 check, attacking the king and also this rook that's standing behind there. So actually there is only one possible answer for white is to play c4, and we see more and more how dangerous this is for the white king. That is more in open space, less defenses around him. Queen to a3 check, king goes to e4, and now queen to a2, attacking these two pawns here and here. Now that the king is on e4, if c4 falls, it's even more dangerous, because we have several checks here and here also. So the white king walking towards the center has become a danger. Rook to e1 was played. Now queen to c2 check, king goes to e3, now queen takes g2. So what to do here? It looks almost hopeless for white now. There are several threats here. One of them, the most dangerous one, is check here on g5 by the bishop, and another one of course is to take on g7. White played queen takes h7, and black took this piece on g7, and well, white could have resigned already. He played a few more moves with the queen h8 check, rook g8, queen h7, bishop g5 check. He played f4, and now bishop takes f4 is a beautiful sacrifice. After king takes f4, queen f2 check, and here he resigned. The rook is going to fall, and also there are more direct attacking possibilities to attack the king. There is, for example, also rook to g4 check, bringing the king really into danger. After king to d3, we can take here, we can take there. There are many options. So well, anyway, black resigned after queen to f2 check. So summarizing, the important things here in this game is that the strategy of black is to provoke weaknesses in the light squares of white, and use his bishop on b7 and later on the queen and the knight to attack these light squares. That's the strategy of black in this game, and also we see the danger of taking this pawn on g7 because the g file becomes weak, and also the white king in open space because of the advance of these pawns here. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and you find it interesting how in the Alekhine Defence these strategic ideas of weakening squares is used. So I'll see you next time on YouTube, and thank you for watching this one.